All right, Nick, let's talk about the Georgia Bulldogs. I think this team really going back in the right direction. A big win over Auburn after, a somewhat disappointing loss to Alabama. But I think this team's back in the right direction, especially in the recruiting department. It's a really interesting move they just made. I'm Andrew, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, Nick, as I was talking about, Georgia Bulldogs really doing a lot of great things. I think getting another linebacker recruit into the fold could be key for them because this is a team who started off this offseason getting a really great five-star recruit, now in season trying to get another linebacker to fill the ranks of this depth chart coming in this 2025 class. I think it was a really great move for the Bulldogs. Let's get into the article and we can talk more about it on the other side. This is from 24/7 Sports. It says three-star linebacker Anthony Krua of Marietta, Georgia, has been committed to North Carolina since April. Krua, a 6'2", 210-pound linebacker, has continued to be pursued by Georgia in the months that have followed since his pledge to Mack Brown's program. Georgia offered in May, a month after his commitment to North Carolina, and this past Saturday, Krua visited Athens for the win over Auburn. Big on them for that win to have him there, potentially trying to flip this North Carolina recruit, home state guy, back to the Georgia Bulldogs. I think this is a really great move by Georgia if they are able to pull this one off, which I think they probably will be able to. Nick, I'm curious what your thoughts on this one are, but before we get to you, Georgia fans, in the comment section below, big win against Auburn. Getting a win on the SEC side of things is always crucial when you can. And another matchup this week, Mississippi State. So I want to know, Georgia fans, in the comment section below, what do you think the final score of the Mississippi State game will be? Do they give Mississippi State their due process? Are they going to be prepared, come in, blow them out? Are they maybe looking ahead towards number one Texas the following week? Are they going to be a little bit shaky to start? Let us know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. But nonetheless, Nick, what do you think about this potential flip by Georgia?
Krua is a very interesting prospect. He's a little bit undersized. He's kind of an edge rusher-esque linebacker. At least that's what he plays in high school. That's kind of what he's projected now. But he's only 210 pounds. He's not a huge physical phenom. Doesn't really fit the bill of what you would normally expect from a linebacker in the SEC. Certainly not an edge rusher in the SEC. But there's just something about this kid where a lot of great programs, especially Georgia, look at him, they just see playmaker. And I think we're looking at a potential steal very early on in this class at this point. But I tell you what, when you get eyes on this kid, eyes on Krua, whether it's North Carolina, Georgia, even Michigan's getting involved a little bit, you can tell there's something special behind the talent level with this kid. And Georgia, I think, has a really good chance to pull off this big-time recruiting flip. If you listen to the comments by Krua in terms of where he's at with this recruiting, again, this is courtesy of that same report. This is what he says. He says, I would say that I am more of the UNC side because I definitely made that change and pulled that trigger in April committing. But, in UNC's record and then thinking about some things, he was then asked if he did back off that decision, would UGA be one of the schools he'd be thinking about? Yeah, for sure. He says it's so close to home, winning program, great coaching staff. They've been together for a little while. They produce linebackers. I want to be produced. He goes on to, the article goes on to note that when he committed to UNC, he did not have that Georgia Bulldogs offer. Now, look, there's something about this kid I respect where he committed to North Carolina. That was before he got the offer from Georgia, and he's still sticking with North Carolina up to this point. I think there's something to be said for that in today's day and age where it seems everyone commits, decommits, commits again, decommits, transfers, all on like a random Thursday. So the fact that he's sticking with the team he committed with for essentially 6 months at this point, I think is really commendable by him, even as he gets offers from a clearly superior program than Georgia Bulldogs. But if you listen to his comments, you can tell he wants to play for Georgia. He really does, right? He wants to be produced. Those were his words. Georgia produces linebackers. Those were his words. He talks about wanting to be part of a winning program. Look, no offense to the Tar Heels. I'm a big Mack Brown guy. But if you look at North Carolina's program today, they're waiting for basketball season at this point. And you look at Georgia's program today, probably the best team in the country, no offense, Texas. It's not even comparable, right? We got a kid here in Krua. He's going to go to Georgia. Just give it time. It will happen. I put money on it. The Georgia Bulldogs coaching staff, Coach Schumann, they've done a great job putting on the press, talking about him and flipping, constantly being recruiting. So credit to the dog staff for focusing on that. I think when it's all said and done, the Bulldogs will secure the commitment. And I think a few years from now, we'll be talking about Anthony Krua as one of the steals of the recruiting cycle.
Yeah, and again, he says, he talks about Georgia, their production of linebackers. I mean, the resume is, especially recently, has been incredible for them. You got the Quay Walkers of the world and the Kobe Deans of the world going out. Those guys are incredible in college. They're both in the NFL now. Then you got other guys as well. Channing Tindall from the Miami Dolphins, Roquan Smith for the Baltimore Ravens. Two big names in that NFL world. So I think when you're a young linebacker and you look at Georgia, you're like, they've been doing a lot of good stuff with linebackers lately. Very, very enticing, especially a guy who I agree with you completely in the fact that it's commendable that this kid isn't just selling his soul to the highest bidder. He has some morality, he has some staying power. The fact that he stayed with UNC for this long is very, very commendable in this day and age where you see, like you said, people flip commits like 5 times in one offseason just to whoever the flavor of the month is. This guy seems dedicated. He seems like a hard worker. He seems very morally sound and a guy who wants to come in, do the work to be the best player he can be. If I'm Georgia, that makes me want him even more. So hats off to him. He's making himself, young prospect. I think, like you said, this guy's underrated. I think he's going to go be that guy where a year from now, we're going to see him crawl up the rankings next offseason. We say, this guy's now a 4-star. This guy's now a 5-star potentially. All kinds of stuff like that. So Georgia Bulldogs going after this guy, I think it's really great. They're going to have to do some work because this guy seems like he's going to be loyal to whoever he goes with. So they're going to have to peel him from Mack Brown's hands at North Carolina. But I think if anyone can do it, it's definitely the Georgia Bulldogs. This guy seems like he's a hometown guy, and I think he would love to play for Georgia.